That's a pretty easy job, Mike. 225 days off. And what does that give you? Just 140 or so of work. But those who know the sport will know that the training is every bit as hard as the racing. And the temperatures today might emphasise that. It's -6 here in Sweden. I think 2 years ago it was about -26, and they still race. So it's relatively warm. The snow's in good condition. There's not a lot of wind to speak about. So fairly friendly conditions for the opening individual event of the year. And it's the big one, Mike, the 20-kilometre. I don't quite understand why they put the hardest race first.
It is quite strange, and only 3 kilometres in the whole racing season from somewhat 30 races. You're right, why put it first? Well, I suppose they're at their freshest, their fittest, they've been preparing for this. Get one out of the way earlier, of course, one at the World Championships in February as well. Well,
let's run down the list of competitors today. That's the first sheet. We've got 104 in all. Keep your eye closely peeled to see who is going last. There you see Martin Fourcade. He's drawn bib number 15. He's halfway down the first group. It's the perfect start for the defending champion here from France. And there you see Emil Hegler Svensson, number 26. He's won the first race of the season before. It's going to take quite an effort from anyone to beat him. Jakob Fack, what an exciting prospect he is. Of course, he's the world champion in this discipline. Further down the order, Christoph Suman of Austria. The Austrians were nowhere to be seen last year. This is where it all went wrong 3 years ago. Can they get it back on track in Sweden this time round? The British have 2 competitors racing today, Jackson and Laponda. Laponda going off 99, Jackson going number 70 at the bottom of that particular sheet. And 1 or 2 names that you won't have seen, but there were no retirees from the top 30 in the World Cup at the end of the last year. There are 3 people missing. We'll mention that later on, but that's due to injury or illness. Simon Fourcade, perhaps the most noticeable, who has compartment syndrome, and anyone who's had it will sympathise with him. He had an operation 2 days ago to sort that out, and we're hoping we see him in the World Championships later on in the season. Now, just 1 sheet to go. Have a look at the bottom name. It is none other than Ole Einar Bjørndalen of Norway, who gets the last start number. He will not be a happy man this evening, but we'll see how he gets on. This isn't usually an event he does too well in.
It did say 14 km/h wind.
Well, welcome back to Sweden, just in time for the first starter of the first individual race of the 2012-2013 season. I know a few of you have been longing for this day and suffering from withdrawal symptoms throughout the off-season, but we're back in business. We've got a massive races coming up. We stay in Oestersund for the whole of this week, and then we head down to Austria, where the snow conditions are improving, but things can change very quickly there. Nice to see Michael Schlesinger, who gets the very first start. He's a great ambassador, not just for the Czech Republic, but for the sport as well, Mike. A good performance from him in the mixed relay. The Czech Republic taking 3rd place last Sunday.
Oh, it's a wonderful start for them, Patrick, especially the World Championships in February. It's over in Novo Mesto in the Czech Republic for the first time, and they have started their season so well. Michael Schlesinger was 2nd here last year in this race.
Yeah, I hope he does better than he did in the World Cup there last year. Simon Schempf is going number 2, 30 seconds behind Schlesinger, 26th in the World Cup last year. He's an up-and-coming member of the German team, and with Mickey Grice not quite retired, but he must be on the verge of it, unless, of course, he's going to be tempted to go to Sochi. I think Simon Schempf could play more of a role this year.
Yes, I think he can, and Simon Schempf, his strength, not quite as strong on the skis. His strength really comes down to his shooting, so he must be feeling confident on this one today.
Wearing bib number 3 is the Olympic mass start champion, 27-year-old Yevgeny Ustigov of Russia. He's really good over the sprint distance. He's really good under pressure. I'm not totally convinced by his individual performances so far, where every shot is so important. Remember, it's a minute penalty. Now, when we'll talk about this later on, Mike, but just have a think of, is the penalty still fair at a minute? We'll have time to discuss that once they're all out on the tracks. But with 104 starters, we better focus on them. Now, the best of the Canadians, Jean-Philippe Legellec of Canada. Brilliant in 2010 when we were in Vancouver. he's faded a little since then.
Well, he has, and what he did in Vancouver, you mentioned that, 8th in the sprint race there. He was only brought in for 2 races, and of course this race actually last year was one of his best in 14th position, but he did have three races in the top 15.
Well, the Russian fans are here, the Swedish fans are here as well, as you would expect. They haven't had to travel too far as we watch Dmitry Malishko of Russia start. That's the second Russian going in group number 1. We got 3 Russians in group 1 because Anton Shapulin will start number 22. What does that tell us about the conditions?
Well, certainly, and when you look, of course, Svensson's there at the front. Lars Berger, we know that he can ski fast. I've heard his shooting is much calmer this season, so certainly most of the coaches opting for the earlier start position.
Kari Koiv of Estonia, 29 now. He comes from Elva. Some of you may have been there. I can't claim to have done. Tobralut's also racing for Estonia today. He's number 48 and only 2. It's a smaller team, the Estonians, so we wish them well today. That, of course, is Martin Fourcade, who we've just had 15 minutes with. And we'll get more of him as the season goes on. We got an opportunity to spend a lot of time with him over the summer months. Now, Sergei Novikov, one of the older members, the Olympic individual champion. He didn't win it by skiing extremely fast. He won it by shooting the perfect 20.
Yes, and the shooting, Novikov is always going to shoot. When you say that, sometimes they don't, but he always shoots to a very high percentage. Rafael Poré has been working on his ski speed, so something special this season from the Belarus, I would expect.
Now, Tim Burke, who was in the top 20 of the World Cup standings at the end of last season, bettered only by Lau Bailey, who finished 14th in the standings, so 2 Americans in the top 20. Jay Hakkinen was only just outside the top 30, so they have actually taken some positive steps.
Well, that's right. We have 4 Americans here who have placed and put themselves in the top 10 quite regularly, and we just need the team. I think that when they can, as a team in the relay, lift their performances, the confidence will grow as a team.
Marcus Vindisch didn't get a run in the mixed relay on Sunday. De Lorenzi and Hoffer, so the old boy and the youngster took the place of the men's places in the mixed relay. Vindisch is quick. He's very quick when he's on form, but the Italians have been far from convincing over the last 5 years or so. Clement Bauer, one of the most exciting biathletes here. Just watch him start, but also watch him when it comes to the standing shoot. That usually is where he trips himself up. It's a somewhat unique technique.
It is. He is such a talent. They took him to the Olympic Games when he was 19-year-old, and they said, well, this man is something special, and I really think Clement Bauer is. I've never seen him start as slowly as this. So is he focusing purely on the shooting today?
Well, let's hope so. This man might be Carl-Johan Bergman, one of the stars of last year. Medals from the World Championships. He got himself a World Cup win as well. He's much more relaxed as a result, but the key thing that's changed in his life is he's a dad for the first time, and
well, you know,
I know well, and it amazes me that he still finds the time to put the training in.
It's incredible, isn't it? And you need so much backup, good backup, which he has from his wife, of course, former biathlete herself. And talking to him in October on the glacier, he is so motivated again. He says there's no pressure. He's achieved what he's wanted. Now he's loving it.
Andrej Moravec from the Czech Republic. Now, he did 10 sprints last year, and he only cleared the targets on 1 occasion, so a 10% record. Really, if you want to do well in the sprints, you've got to be, what, 30% shooting 10 out of 10?
You have to be, yeah. Now, if not, you can only get by with missing 1 target. Really, more of it's about 15-20 seconds off the fastest over the sprint distance.
Now, here's a man I want to shoot clear today because I want to see what his potential is. He was a little careless. Did you get his shooting record from last season?
It's 85%, I think. I haven't got that officially. I will try and dig through the paperwork I have here. But Hoffer, he certainly improved on his shooting last season by so much, but it slowed his skiing time down.
Yeah, Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? And that, of course, is the dilemma with biathlon as a whole. Ski as fast as you can, you're not going to hit the targets, but if you ski too slowly, you're not going to win even if you do hit the target. So it's finding the balance. Schlesinger is a man that has certainly mastered it over the years. We saw him on brilliant form way back in 2007. And he had some very good races last year, but a really disappointing visit to his home resort in Novo Mesto, where nothing went right. But I hope he's got his confidence back. The defending World Cup champion, Martin Fourcade, about to take his place on the tracks for the first time this year. It was not a successful visit to the world of cross-country World Cups, but I think he'll put that behind him, Mike.
He will put it behind him. He finished, what, 47th and 1 minute 24 behind the best. He set out in Gällivare way up in the Arctic Circle, and I think he was wanting a top 5 position. He showed, Patrick, the weekend before, with only being 20-odd seconds behind Petter Northug over 15 kilometre, he showed what he can give. It didn't go well on the World Cup day, though.
As Bjorn Ferry starts, Ustigov posts the fastest time at the first intermediate split, but we won't read too much into that. Bjorn Ferry with good cheer. He's the Olympic pursuit champion. He'll hold on to that for at least another 13, 14 months. And I wonder whether we'll see him in Sochi trying to defend that particular title. I hope so, because Bjorn's very, very talented. Top 15 of the world last year. Lowell Bailey, the #1 American from 2012. Will he keep that going? He started the season strongly. The Americans certainly have the ability across the snow. It's just combining that with the shooting. Malishko coming up to 2.5. Pretty tough loop up to 2.5, Mike's. The climbs here in Oestersund are far from easy.
It's so deceptive, the hill. As we look down this hill in the camera, it doesn't look much, but you really are hurting with what, some 800-900 meters in length climbing up to that high point.
Only 5 World Cups last year for Henrik Labilund of Norway. Perhaps the hardest team of all to get into. Now, nations-wise, Mike, if you were to say the big nations, Norway would be in it, Russia would certainly be there. I guess France have to be one of the major nations. Germany were within danger of dropping out of that group, but still there. Who else is amongst the big names?
You mentioned Austria, certainly with number 19 setting off the Austrians, and Mesutic. He is so regular on the shooting range, but they are very much an aging team. And so I think I would still put Austria in that top 5-6 bracket without a doubt. And the Czech Republic, I think, with the world champs that they're on their home snow this season, they're going to be an improved team.
Well, let's hope so. We need the Americans to join them, and we need the Italians to get somewhere near their best. It's a long time since we saw them winning the World Cups. So let's have a look at the wind conditions. It's never easy here in Oestersund, even with benign conditions over the mixed relay on Sunday. There were plenty of misses, and the wind today, well, it's ranged from 7 kilometers an hour up to 15 kilometers an hour, so it's tricky.
The worst possible start to miss the first shot. Now the mind goes into a little mini panic.
Little lapse of concentration maybe from Michael on that first shot.
I almost sensed he was being too careful. When you break your routines to try and be too careful, your pulse or your timing goes a little out. So I think he was just trying to be so careful.
Well, as we watch Schemp shoot, maybe this is the time to have the discussion about the penalty. It's a 1 minute added for every shot missed. Now, in the old days, Mike, when it used to take an hour to get round the 20 kilometres, 1 minute added was well, less than 2% of the total time. Nowadays they can get round the loop in 45 minutes to 50. It's a much harsher penalty.
It is. I think today's track they'll be struggling to get under, what, 52 minutes. So it's a fair reflection today, but I get your point. But I still like it. I think that, because it changes what we normally see in the sprint and the pursuit, they shoot rapid fire. Today it's a different mindset, and I love seeing that aspect of the biathlete. Some can control it, a lot can't.
Now, the Russians, who we mentioned last weekend, been down in Australia doing some summer training, and certainly racing well, certainly showing. Have a look at the race results down there.